right, we're going to talk about chapter 2 now. Now, chapter 2 starts with a description of a place called the Valley of Ashes. And it's a little difficult to picture the Valley of Ashes, so I have some images for you. So, when you think Valley of Ashes, we have East Egg and then we have West Egg. Now, most of the happenings that go on happen in New York City. So to get to New York City, they have to take a little drive through the Valley of Ashes in order to get to New York. So no matter East Egg, West Egg, all these rich people have to go through this terrible place to get to New York City. Now remember, we're in the Roaring 20s. We have under speakeasies. We have a lot of parties going on in New York, etc., etc. So just know it's a place between West Egg and New York City. Also in New York, if you want to look on the map, we have Myrtle's apartment. Now, here are some images of the Valley of Ashes. So this is from the movie. It's a good representation. It's basically a dumping ground for the waste of what they have to burn for fuel to run the city. So the advancements in the city, all that waste has to go somewhere, and it goes here. And everybody has to drive through here to get to the city. Now, the Valley of Ashes, you're going to see, kind of becomes this symbol for sin. Anytime someone is in the Valley of Ashes, anytime something's going on in the Valley of Ashes, people are up to no good. Whatever they're doing is not good. It's something they are not supposed to be doing. And remember, we have to go through there to get to New York, where the bad things happen. Now, one more thing described in the Valley of Ashes is the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckleburg. There's this big billboard, and it's an old billboard for an eye doctor who's not practicing anymore. On the billboard are two giant eyes with glasses. This billboard is going to become a symbol for like the eyes of God, if you will. Anytime someone's doing something bad in the Valley of Ashes, the billboard will also be brought up as if it's watching them, judging them. So just know we have the Valley of Ashes, which is their sin. It represents the bad thing. And then we also have the billboard, which represents the judgment of that bad thing. So that's the Valley of Ashes. So Nick starts to describe the Valley of Ashes, and then he tells us that he's going to New York with Tom. Now, on their way to New York, they stop in the Valley of Ashes, and Tom is now going to introduce Nick, Daisy's cousin, his wife's cousin, to his side chick. That is bold. That's really bold. Not only that, his side chick, Myrtle, is married to George Wilson, and they live in an apartment on top of his garage that he owns, and she's very poor. Tom is going to go in there as if he is George's bestie and talk business with him, and then as soon as George turns his back, he's going to be flirting with Myrtle. So not only is he so bold that he is showing everybody his side chick, he's also pretending to be best friends with his side chick's husband. So just keep that in mind also. So they kind of meet, they talk, they decide that Myrtle is going to come into the city with them. So she meets them. Now, she changes. Myrtle's described as a very sensuous, curvy character. And that can kind of counter Daisy. She's very slender, very refined. So there's a discretion there. Now, Myrtle's going to come down, and when she's around Tom, she tries to act fancier than she actually is. So they leave, and on the way, she has Tom buy a bunch of different things for her. Then she sees puppies. The puppies are very important. She sees puppies and she decides she wants a puppy. Now, remember, they are not together. They do not stay in New York all the time. Who's going to take care of the puppy? She doesn't even know what kind of dog it is, if it's a girl, if it's a boy. And so this is going to represent how careless and unthought out everything that Myrtle and Tom is doing is. So this dog, this puppy, kind of represents how careless they are being. Now, so we get the puppy. Then we discover that Myrtle has an apartment that Tom pays for in New York City. So whenever they want to get together, they go to her apartment, and they have invited some friends over for a party. Now, at this point, Nick is trying to leave. He wants to leave, but he is steadily pulled back in. He's like, no, I have to go. And they say, no, you need to stay. We're going to party. We're going to have fun. And this leads to Nick being drunk. He even tells us, I've been drunk just twice in my life, and the second time was that afternoon. So remember, he's narrating. So everything from his point of view is a little bit hazy. And he kind of starts fading in and out. And before we know it, it is super late. Now, a couple of important things to remember. We have some friends over. And then Myrtle has changed clothes. She is now wearing an evening gown that Tom has probably bought, and it also says, with the influence of the dress, her personality had undergone a change. And now she has these huge laughters and gestures. She's trying to act rich. So remember, she's trying to get this persona of a rich person like Daisy. She even starts talking about money. And then she even starts talking about paying people who came in her home to give her a pedicure. And she said she had a woman up here last week to look at her feet, and when she gave me the bill, she'd have thought she had her appendicitis out. Now, right here where she says appendicitis, this proves that she is out of her element, because she means to say appendix. Appendicitis is the infection of the appendix. So she's messing up her words here too. She also, when someone asks her about her dress, they say, oh, I love your dress. Oh, she says, oh, this crazy old thing, it's just something I slip on when I don't care what I look like. Knowing that this is something that she would not be able to afford or wear in her everyday life. So she really is playing the part here. And then they start talking about their husbands and how Myrtle can't stand her husband and how Tom can't stand his wife. And then we bring in, after there's some chit chat and some drunken partying, there's a lie that is going to come up. Let's see. And here's the lie. Catherine, Myrtle's sister, who's at the party, says it's really his wife that's keeping them apart. Myrtle wants to marry Tom. And this is Tom's reasoning for why he cannot divorce Daisy. She's a Catholic and they don't believe in divorce. And this is Nick's little aside. Daisy was not a Catholic, and I was a little shocked at the elaborateness of the lie. So, Tom is seeing this girl, Myrtle, and has told her, oh, and Myrtle wants to marry him. And he has told Myrtle, we can't marry because Daisy's a Catholic and Catholics can't get divorced. And then we find out from Nick, Daisy is not a Catholic. So it makes you wonder, are Tom and Myrtle on the same page with this relationship? Is Tom committed to this relationship? Or is this legitimately just a side chick that he can call on whenever he wants to? All right, and then we have some more drinking. It gets later and later too. They talk about how Myrtle hates her husband. Okay. More partying. More drinking. It gets later and later. Now, here's where it gets interesting. People are getting very drunk at this point, and remember, this is illegal. Myrtle, apparently Tom and Myrtle had been in an argument about her saying Daisy's name. So now they can hear her yelling, Daisy, Daisy, Daisy. I'll say it whenever I want to. And as soon as she is in the middle of saying Daisy's name, Tom hits her. Making a short death movement, Tom Buchanan broke her nose with his open hand. So Tom has broken Myrtle's nose for saying Daisy's name, further solidifying the fact that Tom probably cares more for Daisy than he does for Myrtle. So just keep that in mind. Also, he's just broken someone's nose. Myrtle has to go back home to her husband, so that's a problem as well. And after all this, there's a little chaos. Again, people are still super drunk. And then Nick goes home. And it's like super early in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and he's going home. And he's also a little disgusted at all the things he's seen. Remember, he sees these things and he judges the people in his brain, but he does not vocally say that he does not agree with what they're doing. We also need to wonder, is Myrtle going to continue to see Tom? Are they going to stay together? Why does Daisy stay with Tom? There's a lot of questions here. And also, where does Gatsby come in? When do we see Gatsby? How is he going to play a part in all of this? So stay tuned for Chapter 3. Chapter 3 will officially meet Gatsby. Don't worry, he will show up. Let me know if you have any questions, and enjoy.